All right, looks like we're live one last time. Hey everybody, it's Claire Hancock with Immersion Travel Magazine. I am here with Kelly Louise from Travel Plus Social Good, and it's time for our final event of the Sustainable Travel Summit. And I'm so excited to bring you this final event talking about the future of the travel industry. And so without further ado, Kelly, would you take it away?
Thank you so much, Claire. It is awesome to be here. As Claire mentioned, I am the Executive Director of Travel Plus Social Good. If you guys aren't familiar with our organization, we are a global nonprofit and community that is aimed at solving issues like poverty or inequality through business and leisure travel. So I'm going to be talking about the future of the travel industry today. And I have a presentation, so I will pull that right up. So I wanted to talk to you guys first about Wendy. I met Wendy indirectly through Instagram, and she's the type of person that really lights up when she talks to you. And it becomes immediately apparent that as you're talking to her, that she cares deeply about everyone around her. And as you get to know her, it also becomes apparent that while she is incredibly humble, she's also immensely talented. So a year ago, Wendy was working as an art director in New York City, and she was in the midst of a career that many people would envy. But I think everyone can agree, who is listening in on this, as travelers, we often have wanderlust hearts and a sense of adventure. So Wendy craved, and she ended up quitting her job, and she packed her bags and set off. For the past year, she's been to Australia, Bali, France, Malaysia, and so many other really great places. And she's been sharing her story through Instagram. And I think one of the really great things about the way that Wendy tells her story is that she's so open and honest about everything that she's been experiencing as she travels around the world. And one of the really beautiful things about Wendy's experiences and being able to watch that through social media is witnessing how much travel has pushed her to learn and to grow. And like so many travelers do, she's really discovered a sense of purpose through her experiences. I wanted to share a quick quote with you from a recent feature that she had. And in this feature, she wrote, "When I first started traveling, my wanderlust came from wanting to share the natural beauty of our world while inspiring others to pursue their dreams. Yet the more I travel, the more I sense a need for giving a voice to those who don't have one, especially in relation to global issues like slavery and child sex trafficking, which I learned is prevalent in Cambodia. My inspiration will always be a combination of these ideas that I'm passionate about, but rooted in helping others live better, more enriching, and fulfilled lives." So I think that that is really an indicative experience about how as we travel, we do become more connected to our world, and that leads us to often to want to make a difference in the world around us. And I think that this is really the most memorable type of travel. It's no secret that travelers crave authentic experiences. I'm a New Yorker myself, and I think that it is pretty apparent now more and more when you're coming to New York City. Yes, you should go see the Statue of Liberty or Times Square, but also you should go see all of those off the beaten path adventures and seek out those local gems. This allows you to understand the destination from a local's perspective, and then also just get a more in-depth look at that city and really see how it has more of a heartbeat, and you see all of the different nuances in the city itself. This type of travel is really evident, I think, particularly in some of our favorite startups right now. Airbnb's rise and rapid success is due in part to this phenomenon. As they famously tout, you can live like a local, if only for a night. So as I mentioned, I'm a New Yorker. I, like most New Yorkers, am incredibly proud of my city. Yes, I do think that you should visit Central Park or some of those other destinations, but I don't think that your favorite experience is going to be one that's on any top 10 list for tourist destinations. If you ask me for my recommendations on the city, I would tell you about my favorite restaurants and how they source their food and the stories behind the menu. I would talk to you about my favorite stores and the entrepreneurs who open them. While we're on the subject of food, I know that you guys are all familiar by now with League of Kitchens. League of Kitchens is a platform that allows you to book a cooking class with an immigrant, which is hosted in their own home. I had the pleasure of meeting Despina, who's shown here in this photo, and she taught me how to cook the best shrimp and rice dish ever. I am not a cook, and working with her together in her own kitchen, she teaches you about all of these local ingredients and where she gets them and why she gets them. And she also tells you about her story for how she moved to New York from Greece, and she lives in Queens now. And so this shrimp and rice dish has actually become my home-cooked meal, my go-to home-cooked meal for whenever I want to impress someone. I'd also tell you about Urban Adventures. They have small walking tours all around the world. One of my favorites in particular is a prohibition tour of speakeasies in the East Village. And this is a really great experience because you really get to see a diverse mix of history and culture in the East Village, which is also one of my favorite neighborhoods in the city, and it's where I moved when I first moved to New York. And Urban Adventures is still able to give a tour that showed me as a local many surprises in that own neighborhood. Also, most New Yorkers, I think if you ask any of us, we all hate Times Square and will avoid going there at all costs. But Urban Adventures does have a tour of Times Square, which is amazing. They'll teach you how to somehow magically avoid all of the crowds and where the best local gems are in the area. And yes, those do exist. And they'll also teach you about the history behind the evolution of the iconic destination. Another really great experience is with Turnstile Tours, and this is Prospect Park, which is my favorite park in all of New York City. It's by the same designer who did Central Park, but there's a really cool quote where he said that he actually fixed all of the problems that he had with Central Park when he did Prospect Park at a later date. Turnstile Tours has tours of Prospect Park, and Prospect Park is also one of those, you go in and it's so big you can easily get lost. So Turnstile has a really great option to show you around that. They've also got a really great tour on food carts. There's food carts all over Manhattan, and Turnstile Tours will show you the best ones and share the stories behind them with you. So my point with all of this is, again, our most memorable experiences are usually not the ones that are listed in a guidebook. And to take it a step even further, all of these experiences that I've just listed are not only incredibly cool, but they also benefit our local community. League of Kitchens empowers entrepreneurs. Urban Adventures funnels money directly into the local economy. And Turnstile Tours is also a registered B Corp. As we explore, we become more connected to our world, which leads us to want to make a positive impact. So I wanted to take a step back and really look at the current state of the travel industry. We really think of tourism in an interesting way. We look at the amount of tourists visiting a destination, and we take that number and we say that it's good or that it needs improvement because of X, Y, and Z reasons. And as consumers, I think, particularly if you're outside of the travel industry, you often look at travel and tourism, and particularly in developing countries, think about tourism as something that is fueling the entire economy of that country, if that's something that is one of the main drivers of income. But I think that we really need to take a critical look at the impact of those numbers, because there's a gap between the amount of tourists and the impact that they actually achieve. We need to ask ourselves, what value does a tourist have? Going back to all of my stories about New York right now and talking about how travel is transformative and it leads us to want to make our world a better place, how can we build an industry where every traveler is a change maker? Not only is this a a nice thought, but it's also a good business decision. If these are our favorite experiences, then those are the ones that we're going to want to book over and over and over again. And so businesses will be able to build loyalty through purpose-driven experiences. If we take a look outside of our industry at clothing companies like Reformation or Patagonia or Everlane, all of these companies have purpose-driven values integrated into their business models, and they also have cult-like followings. We can change our world through travel. The idea is contagious, isn't it? We can solve issues like poverty or inequality through something that's universally appealing as travel. If you're new to sustainable tourism and you're just now starting to learn about this stuff, I wanted to take a moment to touch upon the global goals. 2017 is the UN Year of Sustainable Tourism. And these are the global goals, which are a set of 17 goals that were agreed upon in 2015 by world leaders. And essentially, these will solve every issue in the world by 2030, which is incredibly ambitious, but also incredibly inspiring if you start to look at these and you look at global goal number 10, reduced inequalities. You can solve that through travel and tourism. Or if you look at climate action, these are things that we can impact by making our travel industry more sustainable. So every one of these goals, they have the potential to be positively impacted by the travel industry. But we can't change the world through travel until we change our industry. In its current state, it's tragically flawed. Far too often, tourism dollars are funneled outside of local economies. This is something that is called tourism leakage, which is a phenomenon. If you are not looking at your screen right now, I would encourage you to flip back over to this and just check out this quick graphic. Basically, what this does is it tells you how tourism leakage works. If on average, if you spend $100 abroad, then less than $10 of that actually benefits the local community because of all of these things like airfare, insurance, expenses within the visited country, and then also money being funneled outside of that local destination. So the question stands, how can we transform our industry into a force for good? When I talk to you about sustainable tourism, I would love to know what you guys think about. I think a lot of people, especially if you're outside of the space, their knee-jerk reaction is to draw parallels between sustainable tourism and ecotourism or voluntourism. And that, as we know, is just a portion of the sustainable tourism industry. And I do want to point out that ecotourism or voluntourism, when done right, are great. But for most travelers, that's simply not what they're going to be doing on their next trip. If you think about the amount of trips that you've taken this year alone, and if you take a critical look at that, think about how many were for do-good purposes and how many were strictly for business or leisure. For some reason, we think about sustainable tourism with giving back. If you Google sustainable tourism and you look at if you look at the images even that come up, most of these, as you can see, are all about eco or green and kind of this really just giving back sort of mindset. And we need to shift that mindset because sustainability is something that can be applied to any business model. It's in its simplest definition is just tourism that positively impacts the environment, the society, and then also the economy of the destination that you're visiting. I also wanted to point out that I'm not just talking about supporting local or shopping local, which of course is great, but I think it's very important to remember that corporations should be held accountable as well. Corporate responsibility is absolutely key to pushing the industry forward. We can take action today to build the travel industry of the future and move sustainable tourism from niche to mainstream. But in order to do this, we have to start at home. If you're new to the sustainable travel space, I think that it can feel very overwhelming. You may have just started to begin to learn about some of the perils of voluntourism, or this nasty business called greenwashing. And to all of the complex riddles within the space, frankly, it can start to feel a little paralyzing. What's right, what's wrong, and what exists in that blurred space in between? What if you found out, for example, only after going to Asia and riding an elephant, that there's inhumane practices behind that? What if your intentions were good, but you just didn't know? I really want to stress here that the key is to start small, and we need to take baby steps to educate ourselves on what ethical travel looks like. Sustainability is a lifestyle, and that means that it starts at home. If we don't start at home and start today, then we're almost certainly going to enter a state of overwhelm when you're abroad and outside of our comfort zones. Over time, this will all start to become secondhand nature and easier over time. One of the really great ways that I love to think about this is just thinking in terms of recycling, because even 10 years or so ago, it wasn't the norm. And because of all of these individuals around the world making small decisions every day, it's become something that, honestly, if you go to someone's apartment and you're like, hey, where's the recycling bin? Because you're trying to throw out a can somewhere and they don't have one, that can feel almost offsetting. So we've made these huge strides to improve our world and improve the environment just because of the simple everyday actions from a collective group of individuals. I wanted to touch on a couple of resources that I love about implementing sustainability into our lifestyles. I think there's so many great resources out there for us to learn and to be more mindful of our actions. One of my favorite ways to consider sustainability has to do with the products that we buy. Think about where they come from. Are they ethically sourced? Do they empower local communities in some way? I love looking at this through the lens of fashion and knowing that what I put on every day reflects my values. For some inspiration, visit EcoCult. This is a photo of the founder, Alden, and it's an online blog focused on ethical fashion, and she also touches a lot on travel and lifestyle. I also love Sustainable Travel International. They have a fantastic Travel Better program, which is an online course designed to help you understand how to travel more ethically. So the vision to transform our industry into a force for good is grand, certainly. And while it's immensely rewarding, it's definitely not without its hardships. I think that I have been in an interesting position where I've been able to watch the travel plus social good community grow around the world. And I'm very fortunate that I'm able to see so many innovators and change makers, and I get to talk to them on a one-on-one level and hear more about their stories and what they're doing. And one of the things that comes up a lot when talking to different people who are in the sustainable travel space is that a lot of times it can feel very alienating. Again, sustainability is a niche within the industry, and so it can often feel like it's us against the rest of the travel industry. So I want to say that we're not alone in our quest to change the world through travel. And I think one of the most empowering ways that our community of changemakers has is that we're eager to learn and grow from one another. The time is now to push our industry toward a more impactful future. The vision to solve issues like poverty through tourism is an inspiring one, but the work can be daunting, which is why we need to break down our goals into concrete steps. I am an incredibly action-oriented person, and I love getting amped up and inspired from conferences like this one. But my favorite classes are always the ones that you walk away with something that you have step that you can start applying in your day-to-day lives. So I wanted to talk about 3 business trends that we can implement into our business models. And if you are a traveler who's listening, then these are things that you can really keep an eye out for when you are booking your experiences when you're traveling. The first one is that we need to implement a holistic business model into what we're doing. Again, the first thing to understand about sustainability is that it's more than just giving back. We need to look at our entire business model and think about how we can incorporate sustainability. These are a handful of my favorite examples. Visit.org, I hope you are all familiar, but if you are not, you should definitely head over to their website right now. They have an incredible amount of amazing experiences all around the world. What they do is it's an online platform experience directly with a local nonprofit or an organization, and you book that in confidence that 100% of the host revenue is invested directly back into the local community. So I think that that's a really great way to think about how it's those transformative travel experiences that are also empowering the community. And Visit.org has found a way to take this idea and then implement it into their entire business model. It's not just a portion of it. Another great example is G Adventures, and they have a sister nonprofit called Planetara. Planetara, if you're not familiar, is a social enterprise incubator, and they work with local projects on capacity training and catalyst grants. And all of those projects are also included in the G Adventures itineraries. The key here again is that we have to understand that sustainability, if it's only a portion of your business model, that's not enough. It's not enough to go to, say, a hotel that skips washing your sheets because they say that that's a green solution. And really, at the end of the day, the company is just more focused on saving money from not washing your towels. Travelers are smart, and we care about more than just a sugar-coated experience. If you are unfamiliar with what sustainability looks like and this all feels overwhelming to you right now, definitely head over to the Global Sustainable Tourism Council's website. That's GSTC, and they have online a criteria available for what a sustainable business looks like. The next trend that I want to talk about is transparency. If you're doing something to improve our world, we need to tell our audiences about how and why. If you're not marketing this, it's a missed opportunity. I think maybe there is something that feels inherently strange about maybe bragging about the good that we're doing, or perhaps that it doesn't occur to you because it does come so naturally. But again, these are missed opportunities. If we're not telling consumers how and why we do things the way that we're doing them in order to improve our world, then we're losing customers. There's absolutely nothing wrong with improving our world and making a profit from doing so. I want to celebrate that. These are two of my favorite examples. The first one on the top is Local Expeditions, and Local Expeditions does tours in New York City, and this is a screenshot from their homepage. I love how simple they've made it. Number one, you get immersed in an unforgettable experience. Number two, you show others what you're passionate about. And number three, 5% of the charity, 5% of profits go to the charity of your guide's choice. So every expedition that you book with them, 5% of those proceeds go directly to support a charity that your guide has picked out. I think that's a really fantastic way to say this is automatically a part of our business model. And this is why it makes sense, because you are, as a guide with Local Expeditions, you're able to show people what you're passionate about and show people an unforgettable experience. And then at the same time, you're supporting the charity of that guide's choice. The other example that I wanted to share is on the bottom. This is another screenshot. It's from Hostelling International USA's website. And what I really love about how they showcase sustainability is not only do they tell us exactly what they're doing to implement sustainability into their business model, but they're also talking about what it is and why it matters. And I do want to touch on social media as well, because social media is so powerful, and it's an incredibly easy way to put our voice out into the world and build communities online through doing this. This is a screenshot from one of my favorite nonprofits, which is Humanity Unified. It's co-founded by the same co-founders of The Culturist, which is an online blog for sustainable travel and inspiration for positive impact around the world. And this is their nonprofit. And what they do is they empower women around the world right now they're focused on empowering women through a farming cooperative in Rwanda. And on social media, they do a beautiful job of showcasing these stories through visual storytelling, but then also through the written word and telling us exactly if you're donating to Humanity Unified or if you're buying one of their mala bracelets. I have 3 of them. You guys should get one. These are beautiful, but you can buy that in confidence that you are supporting those women. And through doing that, you know exactly how you're supporting them and exactly where your money goes. And Humanity Unified does a beautiful job of sharing this in an authentic way. So all of these organizations, they have this core holistic approach to sustainability within their model, and they also weave this into their branding and their message. And by doing this in an authentic way, they're also able to build loyalty and awareness. The last trend that I wanted to talk about is collaboration. We live in an age of ideas and innovation, and by working together, we can achieve far greater things than we could on our own. It's crucial that we work together to push our industry forward. I think that right now we're witnessing a very exciting stage of collaboration between brands and local communities working together. One of the really, I think, powerful ways that this is starting to occur is by showcasing that it's time for the white savior complex to end. We have no excuse to go into a community and tell them what they need, and we must ask how we can offer a helping hand to empower. I think a really great example of this is on the bottom here with Intrepid. And they thoroughly vet their local partners and they work together directly with them in order to make a more impactful experience for both traveler and destination. Collaboration also happens in what might seem like unlikely partnerships. One collaboration that I'm constantly talking about and sharing with people is a simple campaign that JetBlue created with the US Fish and Wildlife Services. And what this is a series of video campaigns that air on the flights from the United States to the Caribbean. And all of these campaigns are aimed at protecting our environment and the beauty and the wildlife of the Caribbean destinations that we're visiting. So what they did is they partnered with local NGOs to share the story of how beautiful these destinations are, but also that we need to be aware of what we're doing in order to not destroy them. So one of the problems that they are facing is that a lot of tourists come into these islands and they buy coral jewelry, which this is another thing. I think when you're unaware of the harmful effects of this, you are just excited that you have this beautiful souvenir from this destination that you visited and fell in love with, but that's actually harmful to the environment of that place. So by doing this thing out of ignorance, just because we didn't know, we're actually destroying the destination that we're visiting. So on all of JetBlue's flights going into the Caribbean, they're showing these videos that talk about the beauty of the islands and then also just educate travelers on how we can preserve that beauty so that it's available for generations to come. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Travel Plus Social Good community. As I mentioned, we are a global nonprofit, and the heartbeat of our organization is really our community. We are a group of change makers around the world who are passionate about sustainable tourism and improving our world through travel. One of our initiatives is our hubs, which are local chapters of the organization. In more than, I think the official account is 18 right now, but we're onboarding about 5 more, which is very, very exciting. Each of the individuals and the brands and the organizations that I've mentioned throughout this talk are all in the TSG community. And I think that fact is so powerful just because it's really incredible to think of in terms of our diverse network of change makers. I felt so fortunate to be able to watch this community grow and flourish, and how humbling it is to witness the actions of innovators in New York City, Chicago, Austin, Sao Paulo, Tunisia, Kathmandu. I wish I could name them all. So if you are listening and you are one of our hub leaders, I'm sorry if I left you out. But it's just such an incredible group of passionate about building the industry around the world. And I wish that I could explain that to you, but I don't quite know how to put the words to that feeling. So all I can do is welcome you into our family so that you can see for yourself. I wanted to circle back to Wendy's story for a moment. This is another quote from her. She wrote, "It's our responsibility as travelers to learn, educate, and bear witness to the events that are happening in the world. It's not always easy, but it's necessary." We're on the brink of a powerful transformation in our industry. Now, more than ever, it's important to take a stand for what we believe in and press forward with our vision. The timing is right. Travelers care about the destinations that they're visiting, and purpose-driven travel offers an opportunity for not only more authentic experiences, but also empowered communities. Through this type of travel, it's very apparent that we care about causes, not just companies, but it is possible for brands to integrate these value-driven ideas into their business models. Sustainable travel no longer has to be a niche. We have the ability to improve our world through something that's so universally appealing as travel. And that's a powerful fact to consider. Let's start today. Let's transform the industry into a force for good. Thank you guys so much. Let me switch back over. Thank you guys. I wrapped in about half an hour, so I think if there's anyone, I'll circle it back to Claire so that I know. I also want to point out that they are running the Kickstarter. I'll let her jump into that, but I do want to say that you guys certainly have our full support. I'm so excited for everything that you guys are doing. So thank you, Claire.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly. That was just such a wonderful presentation and keynote. Thank you for sharing all of that and for wrapping up all the amazing things that we've been talking about throughout this summit. And again, if anyone missed any sessions, we will be uploading all the individual sessions so that they're a little bit easier to find. You don't have to go looking through all the segments and the longer sessions that we put together. So we will have those up soon. But I'd like to extend a thank you out to all the participants for this entire 4-day summit. Without you, this obviously would not have been as incredible as it was. And I feel so blessed and honored to be surrounded by such amazing people. And yes, I would like to invite everyone to check out our Kickstarter. Immersion Travel Magazine has been a free platform for several years now. And unfortunately, we really can't continue that level of engagement for free. And we would like to offer so much more to our members and our readers. We want to be able to start putting full issues together and telling stories from people and tour guides and lodge owners and locals that live in these communities and work with travelers. We want to tell their story, and we want to share a whole different side of the travel industry, the sustainable side, with you. So we can only do that with members paying a yearly fee of $40. Our membership also includes not just those issues, but we also include a database full of information about every single country. We include, we're going to have a section where you can actually type in any travel question that you have, and we will reach out to this amazing network of experts, and we will come back to you with answers. And just more and more amazing things. We'll be talking about cultural etiquette to look at whenever you travel to a new place. So lots of exciting things to look forward to, but we do need to get this funded so we can bring it to you. So again, please check out our Kickstarter, and that link is in the description in this video as well. Again, thank you so much, everybody, and if you have any questions, please shoot us emails, tweet at us, send us something on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Bye, everybody.